banned out on the side of Longzhu.
And what will KT do about the Coco, and specifically the Azir for the Coco, because he just put in a very good performance. Azir was a permanent staple ban against Coco in metas past, and then has no longer needed to be one with his drop in performance overall, and specifically on that champion. So let's see how Azir shapes this draft. For now, not banned on either side.
Yep. Nidalee Ryze now, and what's that third ban going to be for KT? Do they ban? I don't know. Do you think they might take out the Azir?
Real possibility they take it out on blue side. They have more flexibility with their bans. They banned the Lucian this time as well.
I think you probably do.
Wait to see. Sivir was the interesting ban in game 1, and Fiora.
What?
Now, Expession is a good Fiora player, and they're on red side, the scenario where Fiora is the most reliable, but this is definitely some sort of inside track to information. Sivir ban does still come through, so double 80 carry bans. Feels like Caitlyn might be a champion that you really reach for, given that both Sivir and Lucian are off the pool.
Yeah, quite possible, I suppose. Tristana is going to be the other pickup for Longzhu, I would imagine, but we'll see. Maybe a Twitch, but that Fiora ban, I mean, clearly they know something we don't, because that is not a normal ban right now.
Caitlyn first pick may again become a staple when a champion like Lucian is out of the meta. Longzhu do get 2 champions that they piloted again. In total, I guess at the end, they did win with both those champions, although Expession had some questionable players in the early game.
Yeah.
Gonna go for a more standard performance this time, and Chaser looked great on the Rek'Sai. I believe Longzhu's most impressive performance was, I believe, their second game they played in spring, and it was Chaser on Rek'Sai back then, before Rek'Sai was edged out of the meta. Great control jungler when he's on form, and he looked good in game 1.
It looks like Fly is tempted to take that Azir away from Coco, and if you don't ban it, you may have to do this.
This would be an early rotation Azir. Not many lane counters really exist for the Azir, at least in terms of dominant fashion. Maybe you can get away with some farm lanes, but the Varus was well punished in game 1. Will it open up another Coco favorite? I dream of the Jace, though. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him play the Jace, I believe it was once back in Champions
I believe
Spring.
he played it 2 or 3 times.
Might have been twice, yeah.
But always been one of his better champions. Speaking of strong champions, the Bard has always been a good one for Pure. He's been one of the Bard mains, even with Bard as more of an edge champion. It's just going to be the more reliable Viktor. So Viktor versus Azir, we see it again in the mid lane.
Yep, so maybe that Karma pick over for KT now. Do you go with that? Yeah, the Braum might not be bad either.
Pressure draft is real. So one of the reasons that we see Ekko so early rotation, we could have seen it first pick, is that Fiora is actually considered a lane counter to Ekko. So the priority for Ekko goes up when even the counter pick that you don't see that often is like literally out of the picture. The moment you see a counter pick for a champion banned away, you're just like, okay, they must really want this. So they reached for the Caitlyn, but it could realistically have been the Ekko first pick for KT.
Could have been. And also thinking now about what that top lane pick is going to be for KT Rolster. I mean, the Maokai still available. They're going to probably pick that up.
Maokai,
there we go.
Gets out pressured by the Ekko, but it's a very manageable matchup. It's not really any kill pressure on either side, so very standard draft from KT. Caitlyn, Azir, Maokai, very much carries du jour. And now Longzhu are left with the question of what AD carry they want. They've left it to last pick. It's against a Caitlyn. Will they go crazy and try for a Twitch or something that wants to dodge lane against the Caitlyn, or will they go for something that can stand 2v2?
Whoa, it's going to be Jhin.
Okay, another champion with range that can open up and basically start fights. That's the fun thing you can do with the Jhin, is start fights with the ultimate and the massive slow that it provides.
Yeah.
Obviously, Maokai, Braum, and the Elise are all going to be good at soaking those first bullets, so not as relevant as if they were against a super squishy team like a Kindred, but you had to feel like they were going to go for a more risky AD carry choice. It could have been the Ashe. That seems to be the more reliable choice when it comes to scaling AD carries that can lane against the Caitlyn, but the Jhin is something we just don't see that often in Champions.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we saw Fury play that a little bit earlier, but this will be the first one we've seen from Emperor, I believe, this season.
The front line is a bit more situational than most Jhin comps you see, although they do have AoE CC from the likes of Viktor and Bard. Ekko's more of a dive tank, doesn't really occupy that much space himself, even with the parallel convergence, and Rek'Sai, again, only has single target CC most of the time, so you'd have to think Emperor's going to be pretty at risk, but if he can just open with the ult, then dart in and out, the playstyle that Jhin mains always want to do, could actually be devastating. It'd be interesting to see how he goes in lane against the Caitlyn if we do see the 2v2 matchup.
Yeah, that's right. And more than anything, Longzhu seeking to prove that they can still be a contender this season. I mean, I know we're only 3 matches in for these guys, but the first 2 look so shaky. A big win here, especially a 2 over KT, would be massive. KT, of course, wanting to prove that they're the ones who are the playoff contending team. And we'll see if they can tie up this series and force a Game 3. And it's time. KT versus Longzhu. What we thought was going to be a one-sided series might end up to actually be pretty close. Wouldn't be surprised to see this one go to Game 3. Let's see who takes game number 2. All right, welcome to Summoner's Rift for game number 2 between KT Rolster and Longzhu. Longzhu looking to close out this series 2-0 and prove the haters wrong. KT trying to tie things up.
KT played a good half a game, it's worth noting. Their early game was strong and clean in game 1 before it all went pear-shaped over not really anything super clear. It's not like they made a huge error. It's just Ssumday got caught a couple of times and it felt like Longzhu problem-solved their way to a victory from there. So let's see if KT can continue with their strong identity, but actually look to open up a game, you know, really force through an objective, force through a lead that can't just be answered by a couple of smart moves by Longzhu.
Right. Looks like it will be the lane swap for KT. And if you're Longzhu, do you like this, or do you want to try to call it?
It can be hard to conceptualize some Jhin lanes. Obviously, Caitlyn, Braum have a lot of power, but the range support in Bard can harass pretty comfortably as well. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, Longzhu would have been happy to see a lane swap, but I would have been really intrigued to track the 2v2.
Well,
dodging a Caitlyn lane is always pretty happy times, unless you're Draven. Yeah. Then you really want the 2v2 lane.
I mean, Arrows want to be playing Draven, so...
Not this time.
Yep. Used to be such a good Draven.
So this could be a problem here.
Yeah. Oh, wow, they get the flash right away. Snare as well. Here comes Hachani to try to harass Chaser with this red buff. Can he get it?
He got it!
Oh, did he?
No, wait.
Yeah, he did. Hachani got the red buff, but now they're going to make him pay. Hachani, I'm sorry, you have to give that red buff right back. And he will. Chaser gets first blood.
Well, that was optimistic.
I mean, at least he got some gold.
And we talked about the end of Hachani moments, Doa.
Yeah, well, I mean, he didn't really face check the brush. He went in there totally intentionally, knowing what he'd find. I
mean, he face checked a brush, got an objective, and died.
Yeah.
So
he usually doesn't get the objective, so that's very un-Hachani-like.
Oh, dear. Drive-by from Expession.
Yeah.
This has been a weird lane swap.
This has been a weird game so far. Emperor and Fiora able to do some damage now to the bottom turret, and Caitlyn all on her own up in top lane. So Longzhu should be able to knock down this turret quite a bit faster than KT can.
So just to recap, Ssumday pushed too aggressively in lane, tried to get a bit of experience, then go for the jungle follow, had to use his flash, and on the top side, Expession didn't show, and then collapsed on the Hachani, who, I guess, by the virtue of how low the red buff was baited into flashing for that last auto attack. So it's just some shenanigans really happened in the early game, and it gives Longzhu a nice little lead, and you can see the trades in mid also going the way of Longzhu.
Yeah. Coco looking pretty good early on. Ssumday and Hachani finally making it up to that top lane to help knock down this turret, so in the end they will go down at a fairly even pace. Here comes Elise, though. Coco on the run. Score trying to make a play, but they'll be happy to just force him out of lane for the moment.
Can't blow a summoner, so no gain from some nice pathing from Elise.
Yep. There go the turrets.
It looks like, despite the fact the game was very differently played on both the top and bottom side of the map, the tempo is identical.
Yep, Magical Journey. Wow, Longzhu going after a fast early dragon, and it is that Mountain Drake too, so very, very important that they can take that away. That is a huge early pickup.
I mean, obviously the 10% true damage onto the dragon and the turrets is not as significant early, but it's nice to have it in your pocket, right? You have it in your wallet. It's not going to be taken away. It's going to be relevant in the mid to late games. So it's nice to get the stacking on. And again, you're denying the enemy from picking it up for very low cost. You know, there's no buff that's going to be answered with, so it's a nice pickup for Longzhu.
Well, I think with the Caitlyn on the other team too, you know, keeping that Mountain Drake away is pretty vital. Looks like it's going to be Infernal Drake next, so this game could get pretty exciting as far as the battles over the dragons go.
The explosive mid to late game fighting and sieging dragons, so hopefully that'll spur some hot action for us to follow.
Well, it's always hot action with the Infernal Drake, man.
That's true. Spitting hot fire.
Literally.
Yeah. The literal is always good. Sometimes League of Legends, specifically Korean League of Legends, can be very abstract when we're talking about rotations and stuff like that.
You have a point.
Sometimes it's good to see some people get killed really good.
Wow.
I hope that's not taken out of context.
I've never yeah, I know. Someone's going to take that clip and
oh,
like,
dear.
The true Papa Smithy comes out.
I've done it now. There's probably combinations of things you said that probably come across poorly as well, though.
No, never. I can't imagine a world in which that would happen.
Imagine a world.
Well, we've got the 2v2 now.
Imagine a world where Longzhu wins 2-0 against KT.
I know, yeah.
It's looking more and more realistic.
Well, it's early in the game, but it's a good start for Longzhu, that's for sure. Now we see how this Jhin does against this Caitlyn.
It can hang back. Obviously has the dancing grenade to CS in a lot of good scenarios. Bard's also hanging back, but in general that's because they don't know where Elise is, and very good chance that she's going to be on the same side of the map.
And she is, so they do spot them now.
Let's see. The extended laning phase, and very competitive in CS, so Emperor definitely doing his job in this scenario.
Yep. I think Shen and Jhin have to have like a uncomfortably awkward walking competition.
You know a thing or two about Shen walk?
I do. I've lived it.
You have?
I've become the Shen.
I believe that clip was seen by a few people.
Maybe. I heard rumors. There comes Chaser. Looking for an opportunity. Make a play on the Ssumday. Ssumday's just going to protect his turret though. Twisted advance onto Expession. Not taking any turret damage though. Yeah, wasn't worried whatsoever by the threat of the turret dive. No damage to speak of between the two, and wanted to ensure that he got the complete wave. So best to chunk them out now and then force him to back away so he can get the lion's share of the massive minion wave that crashed in. Yep, that's right. So meanwhile, the 2v2 down in bot seems pretty even. A little bit of a CS lead for Arrow.
Just thinking more about the team comps, I'm really liking the Bard. I think Bard is one of the best champions against Azir, especially all these kiting positional-based mid laners and AD carry. The ultimate really warps fights because locking them down for 2.5 seconds stops them setting up a locus to control, like, for example, the Sand Soldiers, or really getting a big Emperor's Divide. So
yeah. Or even taking that Caitlyn out of the fight for a little while means a big difference in terms of...
I mean, obviously Azir and
both
Caitlyn
sides
will be fine and dandy, but you'll take one or the other.
Yeah, totally. Here comes Chaser. Maybe an opportunity for a play on the Ssumday, but he's playing it pretty safe. Well, walking up now, though. Here we go. They're going to try to pick Ssumday. He's still got his flash twisted advance.
Nice.
Flash immediately. Nice escape. Meanwhile, Coco drops a Chaos Storm on the Fly. Fly not really under too much danger.
Really, really defensive itemization choice by Coco.
Flash looking for that cocoon. Didn't end up
Wow.
going for it. That was a nice cosmic binding for Pure, but kind of an awkward engage for Score, honestly. And now the curtain call. It's time. Can this Jhin do damage? Arrow manages to dodge one hit. They block the others. So no kills for that Jhin. But KT going to be able to maybe knock down this bottom turret.
So teleported in, then ulted out as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Had enough. Longzhu going to have to back away. KT end up becoming the victors out of this trade.
Yeah, they do. Going to be some damage on the top turret probably, but I guess it's not a big minion wave for Expession at the moment. It's going to push back, and so he's not going to be able to get right on that top lane turret yet.
Really, I think this must have been influenced by item timing, but the thing I'm surprised about, though, is that the first purchase from Viktor wasn't a Hex core, wasn't an extra Doran's and boots, it was actually a completed Negatron cloak.
Huh.
So the wave clear, which is, oh, Score's caught.
Yeah, Score gets caught. Chaser comes in for the knockup. Score manages to repel away, though. Can Emperor possibly?
Oh.
Yes, he can. The flash. Auto. Big Emperor's Divide, though. Onto Emperor. Oh, Fly. You stuck around in the turret a little bit too long. Chaser goes down 2. That's a double kill now for Arrow. So despite the efforts of Longzhu, they still trade 2 for 2, and the turret goes over to KT.
And Longzhu also get to organize the minion wave as they'd want, push into mid. Viktor doesn't have to use his time collapsing into bot. So when it comes to resources, Longzhu win because they exert less resources to pick up an equal kill trade.
I suppose.
Cosmic Bindings have been excellent from Pure. Yeah, this is a super aggressive turret dive by KT Rolster. I mean, the play was reminiscent of the amazing play that
Phoenix
I
believe, yeah.
played off. I wanted to say Miso, for some reason that's what I have him as in my head, but yeah, Phoenix pulled off in the LCS, but much less effective, and also at the cost of Coco getting some control mid. Now he has been able to shop and get that Hex Core upgrade,
Yeah.
but he went Negatron because of the fact that Elise, Maokai, and Azir are the laners and champions most likely to rotate into his lane, but the cost of wave clear against an Azir meant that he would have been basically at the mercy of Azir for the majority of the laning phase. The fact that he got that back at a good time means that now, less of a consideration.
Yep. Longzhu trying to set up for this next dragon. 5 seconds until the Infernal Drake, and that is such a juicy pickup for either one of these teams. So you'd think Longzhu wants to grab that one and keep the momentum going.
It's kind of fun because, again, you come back to the nature, the randomness of the Infernal Drake and I guess the Elemental Dragons in general.
Yeah.
And you kind of get that question of, well, if we don't take this Infernal Drake, there might not actually be one later. So
True.
You got to take it when it's available.
Well, speaking of taking things when they're available, Longzhu finds an opportunity to take this top lane tier 1 turret, so they're going to even up the turret count between the two teams. KT does find an opportunity, though, to maybe start this dragon. Yeah, Arrow's going to go for it. If KT can take this one, we're back to square one, and KT can say they may have a bit of a damage edge. Longzhu coming in now, but that line of traps is going to make it easy. And can he maybe get it with the curtain call? No, not quite. Dragon does go over to KT. Nice shield from Hachani. Still takes some damage. Emperor snares up Fly, uses that Emperor's Divide. Coco flashes it, going to go for it, but it's a 1v3. Can't get the kill. Score very low. Looks like Longzhu will be able to claim 1 anyway. So they lose the dragon, but they do get a kill on the score. And they might be able to do some serious damage to this mid lane turret too.
And Skull was just out of position after they claimed the dragon, so had to give up his life. The mid lane turret would be the answering objective that they're really looking for. It looks like they're going to get the Rift Herald as well, so they're going to get that glimpse of the Void. They give up just the single Infernal Dragon. Wait and track just how much this warps the game in the late game, but so far it seems pretty even trade overall.
Yeah. Slight edge for Longzhu on the gold count, but it looks like it's going to be an Ocean Drake next. But yeah, it's a pretty even game. Meanwhile, Expession does take out the Rift Herald. Looks like he's going to pick that buff up.
It is the stacking of the Glimpse of the Void that the Observer was showing. So with movement and combat, you build up basically a static Shiv-esque melee range proc that does magic damage on harass. Just a single target one though. Very, very powerful and specifically Gangplank because it does apply on Parlay.
Not bad.
Well, melee champions, you get the full effect. On range, it's only the reduced, so.
Right.
Fits most top laners to a T.
True enough. Now, Arrow does have a pretty nice CS lead over Emperor overall. And with the amount of kills that Arrow has, it's a distinct lead for this Caitlyn at the AD carry role.
Yep, has the very early Hurricane. Now, you cannot put Hurricane Caitlyn in mid lane. Yes, I did call it Hurricane Caitlyn, but not talking about natural disaster this time. Talking about where Caitlyn really wants to be in the mid game, which is pushing down and trapping up the mid lane turret. With the Azir, that's not an option, so it ends up being a forced full core press because Azir's going to push in mid. Caitlyn has to push because she has the Hurricane. So even if Ekko's going to have a slight pushing advantage.
Oh boy, here we go. Emperor's Divide used immediately. Fly gets out. But those snipes from Emperor waiting for it. Oh, Score blocks the last one right before Fly comes out of that Tempered Fate. Meanwhile, they're still going to try to get some plays. Arrow very low. The Ignite finishes him off. A kill for Pure. Emperor chasing along. There's some nice cosmic binding from Pure. What an MVP. That's going to mean another kill for Longzhu. They're going to get the mid lane turret as well.
Pure casually snipes Fly with his first ultimate and then gets the double Cosmic Binding, specifically the Cosmic Binding onto Fly. It guarantees the turret. It gets them more gold. Pure is basically a one-man pick comp this game.
He's having a great game on this Bard.
Only slight downside is that he's picking up a lot of kill gold, but I know that you'll dissent on that one.
I don't mind. Hey, Bard can do some damage, man. He just needs to build some AP.
Bard always kind of does a lot of damage. It's just that he also explodes, so maybe just a bit of health so he can sit there and do more damage. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's necessary.
That's fair. So it was a really nice pick onto Fly. They get a lot of damage onto him, you know, instant use of the Emperor's Divide. But first of all, Pure, this guy played a lot of Bard last season, so you can see his mechanics are on point. The stun onto the wall, onto Arrow, is pretty majestic. Arrow flashes, but at that low health with Ignite, is he going to die? And then also gets the stun onto both Score and Fly.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff from Pure.
Absolutely.
Support carry was made for highlight clips like that, though.
Yeah, it's true. KT now kind of scrambling a little bit. They got that Infernal Drake, but that damage did not help them in the last team fight.
Still too early in the game. There was very low AD purchases on champions like Caitlyn, so
yep.
While Infernal's held in those reverent terms, it's only really kicks in a little bit later.
Looks like Longzhu might want to take this tier 2 in top lane. They're thinking about it. Next Dragon's coming up in about 1:45. Chaser caught out a little bit, taking some damage. Blue buff does go over to Score. Tried to give it to Fly, couldn't quite do it.
The harassment and the misalignment of the blue buff onto the jungler is just happy for Longzhu. No, they'd rather steal it, but in this case, they'll take the result. Emperor's going to split push in bot lane. Has the single item. We see a bit of dissension between which of the first items to go. I mentioned Infinity Edge as a realistic option for Jhin just because he has the auto crit on 4th auto attack, but Essence Reaver a bit more consistent, and you do go through a lot of mana as you poke in and out of fights. Not so much about the right clicks in fights, but more about the spell rotations. So
yeah,
need to keep that mana topped up.
And remember, it is that Ocean Drake next as well, so not quite as high pressure maybe this time around, but certainly helpful for both teams.
Also means that Air will not be spawning, which is consensus the weakest of the three.
Yeah, that's
of
right.
the four, sorry. So a lot of power. I think we'll see plenty of contesting of Dragons. We'll see a couple more spawn before the 35-minute mark.
Probably.
Going to see which ones stack up. Still short of both the BF Sword and the Infinity Edge. So Arrow sitting in that power trough that can be avoided if you really rotate well with Caitlyn. It's just that the map pressure has been so low for Longzhu.
Whoa, Tempered Fate onto Hachani. They may have a pick here. Arrow tries to low down a trap, but yeah, Hachani not getting out of this one. And now that curtain call used to just try to push Arrow back. Dodges 1, dodges 2, dodges 3, dodges all 4. Can he keep his turret up, though?
Azir's coming to try and help, but has to take a pretty defensive line,
zoning.
even though everyone's viewing.
But they just can't keep the minions alive, and they can't handle KT coming in.
One of the issues with this game is, you know, Ssumday is the superstar of this team. Let's be real. Score has his moments, but Ssumday, you know, he was MVP of summer season. Ssumday's 0-0-0, so he's been completely a bypasser, watching on as this game has been played in other lanes. Even now, he's not grouped. It's going to
Score walks
see the
up,
information.
and no, doesn't get the dragon. Oh, Flash Cosmic Binding on the Fly, and Score. Pier hits another one. Another pick for Longzhu. Man, this Bard is just out of control this game.
Another fight where Maokai doesn't find a space to teleport, got vision late, didn't have appropriate vision to go for a deep teleport, and once again, Ssumday just sits top and farms.
All right, Mountain's going to be the next Drake to come up. One already on the Longzhu side, of course. But they are making the picks, and man, Pure is just, yeah, I mean, the term support carry, I think, definitely applies this game.
It's certainly not a pick. Rek'Sai can do her thing, but the big story here, once again, is Ssumday Doa. This is a free farm tank who can never be at fights because Longzhu had such a stranglehold on vision, and the picks have come through, so of course, the moment you get picked, you're so much less likely to put down deep vision because you can't get access to it.
Right.
And thus Ssumday's been sitting on nice items, but complete irrelevance. 8 kills have come through, and just Ssumday not been involved in anything across the map.
Yeah. And so, KT again kind of left scratching their heads, kind of wondering how this is happening right now. And I would say KT, you know, we talked earlier about Longzhu, the team that looks lost a lot, looks apathetic in their games, and KT kind of showing those signs now, you know?
Well, if this is another loss, you'd have to say 3 out of 4 was that lost KT. Just excluding the first game that they played this season against MVP,
Yep.
where they were able to take a game that was in the balance and win it in the mid game. So far since then, they've just really made some questionable decisions. There's really no other way to put it.
Yeah, very true.
Item timings are not there. Fly has a hodgepodge working towards Nashor's Tooth, BF Sword, and the Crit Cloak, but still no Infinity Edge. No one's powered up, and Longzhu just able to be basically obnoxious in terms of how much they play and how aggressively they can play on the map.
Yeah, they just need to not overextend at this point. You know, they need to play it out safely, but keep the pressure on.
Well, Chase has decided that he wants to overextend. He's gone for a Banshee Veil.
I guess so.
Stop the first CC from shutting him down.
Well, that's not bad, I suppose.
Was buffed in terms of cost recently.
Oh, score. Tries to go on the trap. There's a Tempered Fate on to score. Chaser comes in. Hachani throws down the Braum ultimate. Arrow getting some nice autos from the outside. Chaser in a lot of trouble. Emperor pops the ult, has to cancel it. There's a kill for Chaser. Nice Emperor's Divide. Comes in. Pure tries to get on the magical journey. Gets chased by Fly. Fly goes right into Coco, though. Another kill for Pure. 2, though, for Arrow. And KT able to win this fight 2-3. It was close, but talked about Longzhu overextending. I feel like they may have done just that.
Well, that's the thing. It ended up a grouped 5v5, and for once, Ssumday was there to just run at Jhin, eventually kill him, but trivialize him from a fight. No consistent damage from the Jhin. Coco was poked out in a lot of ways, and suddenly the damage wasn't there, so it wasn't single picks. It was finally the true 5v5. It was a nice idea from Longzhu. It's just, after that, the teleport is so much more aggressive because of where the wards are. From Ssumday, this goes in, they get the first kill onto Chaser, who got in early. Remember, he got in before the ultimate had run out from Bard, and then Ssumday can just run at Emperor. Doesn't really have any armor, but it doesn't matter at this stage in the game. And KT win their first fight.
Yeah. That could be a big moment, too, because the gold is still very even.
It's worth noting that they couldn't take any objectives from winning what ended up being a pretty close fight overall, but it does bode well that when they're grouped as 5, they do have the chance to take down Longzhu.
Yeah, and Emperor just didn't get to do much of anything that fight. Started to channel his ultimate, had to cancel it immediately and run away.
That's just the reality. And that's what we're talking about, 6-item Jhin, or I guess 4-item Jhin. What are you to do against a Maokai who has targeted CC, who runs at you?
Right.
The play style of Jhin is to poke in and out because he has that reload. His abilities are ult accepted. You know, he has very short range and very long range abilities.
Chaser drops a smite down onto Ssumday, harassing him, but here comes Expession, but they don't want to chase him too far into the jungle without any more vision.
Yeah, definitely no kill pressure onto Ssumday this time because they don't have any damage dealers with them.
Yep, that too.
To keep up the pressure game, but just need to be careful with how they allocate their resources.
Minute 20 until the next dragon, and it will be a Mountain Drake again this time. If Longzhu can secure that, that'll be a pretty huge boost as far as maybe sneaking that Baron or knocking down a tier 2 here and there.
I mean, just the single pokes. Mountain Drake actually interacts really interestingly with Jhin, because remember, Jhin can crit turrets with his 4th shot, and in general, he has such a high amount of AD that because it's 20% bonus true damage, and in general, you can't get 5-6 auto attacks off at a turret, right? You end up getting harassed. You only get a single auto. A single auto with high true damage actually means those few shots you're getting in really hurt those turrets.
Yeah, very true. So now Longzhu setting up for that next dragon while KT takes a red buff. Longzhu has some decent wards down. Just trying to keep the lanes pushed up as well.
See the vision story, that may be the big point. Once again, Ssumday really doesn't have appropriate vision for any sort of flank around the spawning dragon. But he doesn't have teleport either, so he'll just group with his team.
Yeah. All right. Here comes Longzhu.
So the Void still applied onto Expession.
Dragon is up. KT just pushing down the mid lane for the moment, trying to go as far into the Longzhu side of the map as they can. Now turning onto that dragon. Can they burst it down, or are they going to look for a team fight? They've got a nice line of Caitlyn traps set up. As they go for this dragon, KT may be able to claim this. Chaser dodges it though, comes in. Oh, can't seal the Prey Seeker. That's a Mountain Drake buff going over to KT.
Longzhu don't really have a comp that can stop KT pressuring like that. Remember,
Guess so.
Azir, Braum, Maokai can really just kite back, and there's no way for Longzhu to really force something out of the most opportunistic of Bard ultimates. So smart of them to realize this is not a dragon we can claim, just swapping Mountain Drakes in the end. And they're going to go for the turret instead.
Yeah. And looks like they'll get it. Hachani coming from the side, though. There's a Braum drop down. Yep, Chaser and Expession over the wall. Score, firing from the outside. Arrow gets hit by that Tempered Fate, but it looks like Longzhu on the retreat anyways. Ssumday once again gets into the back lines. They get the kill onto Chaser first off, and now KT trying to flank with that Magical Journey, trying to use Longzhu's own abilities against him. Expession going back into lane, but the auto attack from Arrow is going to take him down. That's a double kill for that Caitlyn now. And KT may have Baron on the mind. They could also just push up to mid lane. Lost a lot of health though, so looks like Ssumday might be able to recall and teleport back in if he wants to.
There is a vision. There is a ward coming out. It's a blue trinket, so they have an idea of what's happening, but can they really contest it? No Bard ultimate available. The heroic steal is an outside chance, but not really realistic. Baron falls low.
Yep, not gonna claim it. So the Baron buff goes over to KT. This game that's been so back and forth goes back around to the KT side again.
It's just 5v5 fights are so hard for Longzhu to win because their main issue is that no one does consistent damage. Yeah. It feels like Jhin and Viktor are kind of birds of a feather when it comes to just poking in, doing one spell rotation, then wanting to back out. You can't back out from Maokai. He's going to keep running at you, doing incidental damage, slowing you with the Arcane Smash, getting the cooldown back on the W, and thus Emperor and Coco completely trivialized in 5v5 fights. So when Pure is hitting the godlike cosmic bindings, you can burst down one target with one rotation of spells from Jhin and Viktor. Excellent comp when it comes to skirmishing, you could say, and picks, but true 5v5. Consistent damage from Azir, consistent damage from Caitlyn. So many more options for KT in that realm.
Yeah. I mean, Arrow's been, pretty much untouched in a lot of these fights the last couple minutes. That big front line of Hachani and Ssumday just letting him do whatever he wants.
And again, the big front line doesn't exist for Longzhu. Expession isn't able to run and trivialize Arrow from fights, at least as far as we can see with the items that have been completed. Chase has been kind of in a mid-tier role, has gone for engages, has gone for peels, as is the way with Rek'Sai. Emperor has not been able to get out those multiple rotations of damage, and now KT knocking on the inhibitor.
Yep, Expession trying to go for their own inhibitor, and KT may need to send somebody back to deal with this. It's going to knock it down pretty slowly, though. So I think KT should be able to take this inhibitor and maybe get back in time. We'll see. Maybe not. They may actually trade inhibitors here. Expession going in. Doesn't really have a lot of minions, though, to help him.
Strange that in a 5v5 sense, they don't feel confident enough to try and force something.
Oh, Tempered Fate doesn't land. Longzhu really wants to try to stop KT from backing. Wants to trade inhibitors. And you know what? Expession's had a lot of time with that.
It looks like he may have to die to take it down, though. We're watching in the mini-map
It's getting slow, and he needs just one more auto. He gets it at the very end, but he will be taken out.
Objectives on the map, so no real way to answer this. Death timers are not long, remember. It's only 27 minutes. This is definitely in the wheelhouse where death timers have been lowered, so not so much to contest from it. I don't know how Longzhu was able to enact that trade. I think that's just KT really not pressing hard enough. They didn't want to go for a pick, even in a true 5v4 scenario. Expession might have had teleport, but we always talk about it with the Echoes. Sure, the laning phase is oppressive. Sure, in a long fight with setup, you can do things with the CC, but teleporting in and hitting the parallel convergence is almost unheard of. It's so much setup. It's 3.5 second channel into another long channel. So it's very, very difficult to hit. And in the end, KT doesn't go for anything and just end up trading objectives in the weirdest scenario.
Yeah. KT responding, though, by moving into the mid lane. Going to try to take down this inhibitor. They get the turret.
Well, Ssumday doesn't care about this.
Nope, I don't think so.
He doesn't even have a lot of armor yet.
Not a lot of damage from this Jhin. And KT kind of waltzing right in. And is there anything Longzhu can do to stop them? I'm not so sure.
Two super minion waves soon to be crashing. Yep, no one can get onto the Caitlyn or the Azir, so they free DPS down that mid lane inhibitor.
Another dragon coming up in about a minute. KT, though, in pretty firm control of this game. The gold lead is not huge, but they've got so much more in terms of objectives.
And the pressure, and the fact that Longzhu, 2 team fights in a row, they're like, wait, we can't truly 5v5, and Pure, I mean, did some insane things on Bard this game, but it feels like that was almost making up for a comp that doesn't function in 5v5. And that's not necessarily a problem. You can win the game without really opting into 5v5 fight out of 5v5 fight. It's just that Longzhu have really pushed up to objectives that they really can't rush down. The fight has been started. Ssumday didn't show up to the first 3, showed up to the last 2 team fights in a row, and it's no coincidence that KT have been winning them pretty handily.
Absolutely, and I felt like the moment Longzhu lost that Infernal Drake was the moment things kind of turned around, that team fight loss. They're going to go for the next one. It is an Infernal Drake again. Trying to set up a pick here on to score, maybe.
He gets the Raptor Sense. What's he going to do?
Finds that ward.
Are they going to squish the Spider?
They're being so patient. Spider gets sent the wrong way.
He has
Hachani
no
coming
idea.
Through. No, they're waiting. Longzhu. They're really wondering where he's at. Oh no, that did not
here we
work
go.
out. Teleport coming in for KT. Emperor gets an opportunity to throw down his ult from some cover. Tempered Fate locks up Fly. Dragon activated, goes on to KT, does a bit of damage there. Chaser in the back lines. Arrow once again untouched. Getting to auto attack pretty freely as Ssumday wraps up the back lines. I mean, we've seen this fight before. Fly coming in, doing the damage he can. Score all over Chaser, a double kill for Ssumday this fight. He decides he wants some kills. Arrow's got enough. Chaser, chase down. Nice Q from Hachani. He'll lock that one up. Score with another kill, and Longzhu waited a long time and never pulled the trigger, and in the end, the trigger got pulled on them.
Exactly. These fights are just a shooting gallery, to continue that metaphor, though. There's just no way for these 5 champions to stand up to what KT have fielded. And look, they played around what they had well. It's just the moment that they got goaded into a fight because they'd won so many little skirmishes, the comp came apart at the seams, and it's going to be another 3-game series.
Yeah, I guess so. KT able to win a pretty decisive game number 2. And Longzhu, again, on the verge of losing yet another series. We'll see what they can do next game, but for now, it's all KT.
Yeah, I really like the play from Longzhu in the early game. The Bard
Me
as
too.
well. That was going to be an easy MVP from Pure.
Oh, seriously. Pure's Bard was so good in the early stages of that game. It really is.
I think what they did
Too
with
bad,
it, though, that's the thing, is like, they did a lot of smart things with what they had. They set up vision. How many times did Ssumday have no way to teleport to?
Right.
So no true 5v5, so the picks were smart, you know, some of the damage numbers. This tells you that Caitlyn was definitely not in any way stopped in team fights. She just got to free auto, doing consistent damage, not a true consistent damage dealer on the side of Longzhu, but the moment the vision got more equalized, the moment that people could teleport and truly 5v5, that's when the illusion of strength from Longzhu was shattered, and KT ended up rounding out a pretty comfortable game 2.